behind the quiet streets of San Antonio lurked a predator, hiding in plain sight. His name? Johnny Joe Avalos, dishwasher by day, ruthless serial killer by night. But what drove him to unleash a wave of terror, leaving a trail of fear and devastation in his wake? Johnny Joe Avalos, born on December 1st, 1986, is a notorious American serial killer whose brutal acts shook San Antonio, Texas from 2012 to 2015. Over these 3 years, Avalos targeted vulnerable women and a teenage girl, subjecting them to horrific assaults before strangling them to death. He used his hands to strangle each of his victims, resorting to plastic bags in 3 of the cases to ensure their suffocation. His reign of terror left the community in fear, and for a time, he seemed untouchable. However, his crimes eventually caught up with him when DNA evidence linked Avalos to the murders, leading to his arrest in April 2015. This breakthrough in the investigation brought an end to his deadly spree and shed light on the horrific details of each crime. It took 3 years before Avalos faced the full weight of the law. He ultimately pleaded guilty to the charges. His confession spared the victims' families the anguish of a lengthy trial, but could never undo the suffering he caused. In 2018, Avalos was handed 2 concurrent life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would never walk free again. Today, he remains incarcerated in a maximum security penitentiary, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind a seemingly ordinary facade. His case continues to be a chilling example of how justice, although sometimes delayed, can bring closure to communities and victims' families. Born on December 1st, 1986, Johnny Joe Avalos grew up on San Antonio's South Side, where he spent most of his life. An intellectually disabled man, he struggled to find a steady path, and his background was by numerous encounters with the law. Avalos has been described as having an intellectual disability. This condition may have affected his social skills, decision-making abilities, and impulse control, leading to difficulties in forming healthy relationships and coping with life's challenges. Before his violent crimes came to light, Avalos was known to the police for a series of offenses, including making terroristic threats, criminal mischief, and possession of a controlled substance. His troubled history hinted at a darker side that would eventually emerge in the most chilling way. Avalos never married and led a solitary life. By day, he worked as a dishwasher at a restaurant near downtown San Antonio. But at night, he prowled the streets, searching for potential victims, primarily targeting sex workers. His nocturnal habits painted a stark contrast to his daytime routine, revealing a predator lurking beneath the surface. Unbeknownst to the community, this quiet dishwasher harbored a deadly intent, methodically selecting and following his victims under the cover of darkness. His actions during those nights would later reveal the true depth of his depravity. Johnny Joe Avalos had a distinct and terrifying modus operandi. He targeted women, often raping and sometimes robbing them before strangling them with his hands, or using plastic bags to ensure they couldn't fight back. While he was ultimately connected to the deaths of 5 known victims, Avalos claimed that his list of intended victims was far longer. According to his own accounts, over 20 other women managed to escape his grasp before he could carry out his deadly intentions. Despite these claims and his detailed descriptions of the attacks, investigators were unable to find any evidence to confirm the existence of these additional victims. Avalos's first known murder took place in early October 2012, when he targeted Vanessa Lopez, a 25-year-old woman. After a brutal assault, he strangled her and left her body to be discovered. Just days later, her lifeless form was found floating down the San Antonio River in the Mission Reach area. Her death marked the beginning of a chilling pattern in San Antonio. Within 6 months, 6 women, including Lopez, were found dead under similarly suspicious circumstances in Bexar County. As these cases emerged, whispers of a serial killer on the loose spread throughout the community, fueling fear and uncertainty. Yet, despite the growing concerns, the local police chief dismissed the notion of a serial killer, emphasizing that there was no direct evidence linking the deaths at the time. The Bexar County Medical Examiner further complicated the narrative, ruling the causes of death for nearly all of these women, including Lopez, as undetermined. This lack of clarity only deepened the mystery, allowing Avalos to continue his predatory behavior for years before DNA evidence finally tied him to the horrific crimes. On December 18, 2014, Avalos brutally raped and murdered a 15-year-old runaway named Natalie Chavez. He left her lifeless body under the Vera Cruz Street Bridge over Apache Creek in San Antonio's west side. The following morning, a man discovered her body and called the police. Upon arrival, investigators noticed signs of a struggle and quickly ruled her death a homicide. DNA evidence found at the scene was not matched to Avalos until the following April. In January 2015, Avalos strangled 28-year-old Rosemary Perez to death. Her body was found wrapped in a sheet along a sidewalk in the 2100 block of San Fernando 2 days later. On April 4, 2015, Avalos beat and strangled 46-year-old Genevieve Ramirez. She was found unconscious in a grassy alley along the 100 block of Avondale, naked from the waist down with bruising but no overt signs of trauma. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital, where she succumbed to her injuries 2 months later. On April 15, 2015, the decomposing body of Avalos's final victim, 29-year-old Celia Lopez, was discovered at the 4400 block of South Presa. She had sustained trauma to her head and face. Investigators recovered DNA from men's underwear found near her body. This chilling series of events paints a disturbing picture of a calculated and ruthless killer. Avalos's ability to evade capture for so long is a testament to his cunning and the fear he instilled in his victims. On April 12, 2015, Johnny Joe Avalos was arrested for the sexual assault of a minor, which was tied to the tragic murder of 15-year-old Natalie Chavez. Investigators strongly suspected his involvement in her death, but at that time, they lacked sufficient evidence to press murder charges. During initial questioning, Avalos claimed that he had paid Chavez for sex and insisted he did not know her true age. However, this claim was never substantiated, and he later confessed that he had, in fact, known she was underage. His contradictory statements further raised suspicions about his true intentions and involvement in her murder. As the investigation progressed, authorities uncovered more incriminating evidence, allowing them to charge Avalos with the murders of Chavez, Rosemary Perez, Genevieve Ramirez, and Celia Lopez. However, it wasn't until the following year that investigators managed to connect him to the murder of Vanessa Lopez through DNA evidence. This breakthrough solidified Avalos's role as a serial predator whose crimes had spanned several years and targeted multiple women. On November 29, 2016, Avalos faced a significant legal turning point when he was indicted on capital murder charges. Despite the gravity of his offenses, his intellectual disability made him ineligible for the death penalty under Texas law, a factor that shaped the outcome of his case. In 2019, Avalos opted to plead guilty to all charges, thereby avoiding a lengthy trial. His guilty plea came with a grim admission of responsibility for all 5 murders, offering a measure of closure to the victims' families, who had endured years of uncertainty and grief. As a result of the plea agreement, Avalos received 2 concurrent life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would remain behind bars for the rest of his life. He is currently serving his sentence at the Preston E. Smith Unit, a high-security prison in La Mesa, Texas. While justice has been served, the pain and trauma left in the wake of Avalos's actions continue to echo in the San Antonio community, serving as a somber reminder of the lives lost to his violence.